Hi, welcome back guys. This is your friend, the What If guy, back with another fanfiction. This is the first part of What If Issei becomes cursed exorcist. Now before starting, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. The scene opens with a mature man walking through the streets of New York, smoking a cigarette beneath his long trench coat. As the rain begins to fall, the people around him flee for shelter. The man notices a hooded figure that emanates a dark and terrifying atmosphere. As he approaches, he observes enormous red eyes and a disturbing smile, but he remains unfazed. His only concern is keeping his cigarette lit. The dark figure smiles with excitement. "John Constantine," it says in a macabre voice. "Watch out," the man replies. "You should look both ways before crossing the street. Finding you here brings us great pleasure. Perhaps the higher-ups will reward us for bringing you in, but we don't think that will give us as much pleasure as devouring your bones and flesh while you scream in pain," the figure says, beginning to grow in size. Cracks echo as it deforms, transforming into a sort of horned man with a gorilla-like body, exuding a horrible stench. The figure crosses the street at high speed, but the man remains impassive. "I told you to look before crossing," the man comments before crossing the street and entering a bar. The atmosphere inside the bar is hostile, filled with bikers, gang members, and some mobsters who are watching the man. However, he sits down and orders a drink, ignoring the stares. "John," says a well-dressed African-American with a neatly trimmed beard. "Why is it that whenever I ask to meet, it's in a dump?" "Because if I let you choose the place, it would probably end up being a church," the man replies. "They didn't bother you the first time we met. Besides, it's not the first time you've been to one. No, it just brings back bad memories. Besides, I couldn't, my nature doesn't allow it." "Well, we could make an exception. After all, you are unique." "Unique?" the man asks. "Demons don't save people, not to our knowledge. That filled some angels with hope, You gave them the dream of reconnecting with their brothers, who strayed from the righteous path." Laughs. "No matter how you look at it, demons are demons, in this world or the next. I was born human. I just had the bad luck of becoming one. By the way, what did you want me for?" "There's been a situation. We have a couple of people asking about you." Laughs. "They're asking about me? Since when are you my secretary, Gabriel?" "No, they're not just simple humans looking for an exorcism, or a group of witches and demons threatening the world." "So what are they? Aliens?" "No, one of them was a dragon." Exhales smoke. "A dragon? Here in the Big Apple? Aren't those creatures supposed to be in Europe? Besides, what does a dragon need from me?" "Not just that, John. One was a fallen." "Are you surprised that the first fallen seek me out? Are you trying to sell me? There's no parable about that." "No, he wasn't like those fallen. He was different, pleasant, and he addressed you by a name, Issei." "I have to go," the man said, extinguishing the butt of his cigarette and leaving a couple of dollars for the drink. "That's not true, John. Hey, John, don't lie to an angel." "I'm not," he replied as he walked away. The man exits the bar, and the rain intensifies. As people pass by with umbrellas, he lights another cigarette. "Sir, could you give me a light?" A mature voice says as he lights the cigarette. "Azazel, why are we stopping? You didn't say Issei was nearby," an annoyed platinum-haired man says. "Besides, we've already gone through so much trouble to survive the interrogation from this faction of angels." "Don't worry, Vali, he says without stopping to smoke. "Isn't that right, Issei?" he asks as the man looks at him disdainfully. "I'm sorry, but you're confusing me. Issei is a name? I am possible. What are you saying, Azazel? I can't feel anything from his aura. It's because he knows how to hide it. You can't yet, but for me, it's an open book. The magic of deception is part of the fallen. How do you think we survive angels and demons? By the way, I didn't know smoking was so dangerous. Why do you look so old?" "Well, why don't you ask that redhead and his green-haired boyfriend? I forgot his name. It's been 20 years. Age is starting to take its toll." Laughs. "But you're just a kid. Thumph with me," Vali says, annoyed. "How is this man my rival? Also, why can't I feel Drake? Are you really Hayuda Issei?" "I no longer respond to that name. Well, I have things to do," he says as he walks past. "Like getting drunk until you pass out?" Yes, your reputation precedes you even in this world, he said as the man decided to keep walking. Stay alert, Vali said as the rain fell on his face. Vali, we shouldn't cause trouble in this world. I won't fight in armor, I doubt he can either, but still, he must conserve his strength. Vali, the man said before the platinum-haired one lunged to fight. He didn't activate his armor. Azazel was shouting for him to stop, while Vali threw punches at the man, who dodged them easily, without letting his cigarette fall. Fight, Vali said, performing flips in the air while delivering a kick that destroyed part of the ground. What a way to raise a child, Azazel, he's just a rude kid. Nan 3, Vali said, invoking a small magic circle in his fist. The brown-blonde man let out a small sigh and exhaled a cloud of smoke so dense and dark that it obscured visibility. Off with me, the platinum-haired one shouted, invoking his wings to disperse the smoke. Are those dragon wings? Gabriel said, appearing out of nowhere. They're a bit different from what I expected. Our worlds are different, just like you in our world. What? How am I in your world? Here, Vali said, finding no trace of him. It's useless. He's good at fleeing, although I know where to find him. It's not necessary, we already have a plan B. The man walked through the streets, sighing as he thought of a place to stay, but a gentle voice stopped him. Issei-san? Said a blonde girl with a hat, surprised to see the older man. I'm sorry, you have the wrong person, girl, the man replied. I see, she said, lowering her head. Don't lie to him, Sekiryu, we've been watching you since you entered the bar, Arthur said. Oniai-sama. Spying on people is a crime, Arthur, you could get arrested, but you were a terrorist, so it doesn't matter anymore. And what is it that you want? Issei asked, looking at the others. Issei-san, Lufei began, but was interrupted by Arthur. Isn't it obvious? We want you to return to your world. Return? Issei let out a laugh. You don't throw someone out of their home and then ask them to come back. Besides, I'm fine here. At that moment, Azazel appeared alongside Vali and Gabriel. Well, you'd be surprised, Azazel said. When I fell, I was kicked out of heaven, but Michael lets me visit from time to time. Are you really that flexible in your world? Gabriel asked. And what do you think, kid? Do you want to go back? Azazel inquired. I'll pass, Issei replied, trying to leave. Did I mention that they cry for you? Azazel said, stopping him. Every night, your president curses her brother for allowing what was done to you. When we told her our plan, she personally offered to help, but Lufei and Arthur could only take us. That's not my problem. Besides, what about Kuroka? Issei asked. She's been very busy, Lufei replied sadly. She hasn't slept well after everything that's happened. She's been protecting your harem, idiot, Vali interjected. Protecting it? From what? Issei asked, confused. That's what I wanted to talk to you about, John. Gabriel said. The old powers of hell have turned against each other. They no longer settle for dominating this world and its souls. They want to try their luck in other worlds. That's not possible. Why haven't they done something? Isn't it their duty to protect the peace? Issei exclaimed. That's what we do. Even some demons have requested a truce with heaven to stop them. They don't want to lose what they've already achieved here, but they didn't act alone. Issei, have you heard of the first Lucifer? Azazel asked. They always mention him when it comes to the Cows Brigade, Issei replied. Well, apparently their ranks became deficient when they discovered that there are demons who share that ambition. He is helping them cross into our world. They're just demons. They can use holy water and crosses, but what worries me is their numbers. Besides, these demons don't distinguish between demons, angels, and fallen. They kill, devour. They are completely different beings from what we've faced. When Lufei was looking for reinforcements, she and Kuroka felt your power in this world. Did you think I would forgive them? And that I would come out to help them? 20 years have passed. Azazel, tell me, how much time has passed there? 2, Vali replied. Well, fine, I'll help them, but it won't be for free, Issei said, resigned. John, this would be a good act for your redemption, Gabriel suggested. Yeah, forgive your enemy, blah, blah. Listen, since Azazel came personally, I won't charge you much for transportation, but that redhead will have to pay me very well. So now it's money and not a pays, Azazel joked. Money gives me a pays and cigarettes, Issei replied with a smile. Elsewhere, The entourage of the redhead walked through the streets of the park where the brown-haired boy once died. Rias, we have to go back. It's getting dark and there's a curfew. The creatures will start coming out, Aquino said. Aquino, how did we end up hiding when we used to eliminate traitorous demons? Rias asked. When you started to stop eating and I started to stop wanting to live, but we still have people who need us, people who would give their lives to protect. But he wasn't given that option, Rias said, shedding a tear. Rias said, a redhead accompanied by his maid. Oni-sama, what do you want? Rias asked. Rias-sama, then Surzek is here. As Mao he should. It's fine, Grafia Rias, you need to go back. The nights are no longer safe. No, they stopped being safe when you and he expelled him. Not only that, do you know everything he did to Issei? Ajuka still has to answer for his crimes, but I do not deny that I also fell for his deceptions, Surzek said. You're lying, Rias shouted, sobbing. He told me that even while crying, he said he was innocent and you didn't hesitate to deliver the final blow. I know, and I still blame myself. I can't remedy what I did, but I also couldn't kill him. That's why I used teleportation magic to make him disappear from my sight, but my anger was so great at that moment that I didn't realize he had disappeared from this world. Rias, Oni-sama, stop pretending. I know you never agreed to him being my partner, yet I still wonder how you allowed him to interfere with Razor. But Grafia shouted as one of the creatures attacked from a distance. How did we not sense its presence? Surzek asked, alarmed. Rias, Aquino shouted. The creature, resembling a puma with scales on its skin, murmured about devouring women and blood. The silver-haired girl launched ice attacks while Aquino used lightning to protect her king, who employed his power of destruction to eliminate the creatures. We need to get out of here, Aquino said, but a deep darkness surrounded them. The public light went out, and the sky turned dark, as if there were a new moon. Grafia, protect Rias no matter what happens, Surzek ordered. Surzek-sama, Grafia replied, worried. The redhead was preparing himself, feeling a deformed hand with burns and claws trying to reach them. They attempted to fly, but only the sound of wings was heard. There were more demons in the air, surrounding them. Let's teleport, Surzek said, invoking a magic circle, but the creatures lunged at them. Rias! Surzek shouted. But a strange burst of flames burned all the demons surrounding them, while the four looked on in astonishment at the scene. Azazel? Grafia asked. No, it's not my power, it's his, Azazel said, looking at a man in a trench coat beside him. Title: The Lost Balance. On a dark night in New York, an African-American man walked through the halls of an ancient church. Upon reaching an old demon in the same building, he found himself surrounded by ancient images and furniture covered in cobwebs. Gabriel, the narrator, reflected on the recent death of a priest in the neighborhood, a murder that had left the community on high alert. It was suspected that a serial killer was behind it. The church, which had once been a meeting point between humans and demons, had lost its power in recent years. Demons no longer needed to whisper in people's ears. The corruption within humanity was evident. Wars, hunger, and violence had led the angels to question their mission. Amid this confusion, Gabriel and other angels gathered in the church to discuss strategies. However, they were taken by surprise by a demonic energy that did not seem hostile but rather wounded. Suddenly, a crack opened, and a young demon, covered in blood, emerged, struggling to breathe. I didn't do it, the young man murmured, tears streaming down his face. One of the angels, ready to attack, was stopped by a woman of extraordinary beauty. Raphael, another angel, approached the injured boy and began to heal him. Gabriel, confused, questioned Raphael's decision to show compassion toward a demon. Remember that they were once our brothers, Raphael replied, recalling past battles and the smell of spilled blood. Gabriel wondered if this demon had truly committed any evil act. As Raphael healed the boy, he explained that the blood of the innocent had a similar scent, suggesting that the young man had been punished for something he hadn't done. Gabriel was surprised to hear this and realized that demons were also beginning to fracture among themselves. What's your name? Raphael asked the young man, who could barely stay conscious. I didn't do it, he replied before fainting. The scene in the church was chaotic, with demons around them miming in pain. Azazel, a mysterious man, appeared and confronted the situation, leaving everyone astonished by his power. What does this mean? Serzex asked, confused. Azazel, smiling, tried to explain his presence but was interrupted by Rias, who, with tears in her eyes, asked about Esi. Azazel, in a nonchalant tone, mentioned the young demon's name, which provoked Aquino's anger. Who do you think you are to speak of him like that? Aquino questioned while Azazel attempted to calm the situation. I'm John Constantine, he replied arrogantly, leaving everyone in the room in suspense. The conversation grew tense, and Azazel suggested they move to another location to discuss what was happening. As they walked toward Issei's old residence, Azazel noticed the nostalgia in the air. Upon arrival, the atmosphere was heavy, and Kiba, one of the angels, checked on Constantine, concerned for his safety. Azazel tried to reassure them, reminding them that the man was safe. As they headed to the VIP room, the group of angels watched Constantine with distrust. Azazel explained that many of Issei's former allies were not present and that the situation in the world had changed drastically. And Asia? Irina? Ravel? Constantine asked, eager to know more. Asia and Irina are busy taking care of the sacred territories, Azazel explained. Ravel returned to her family, who were not pleased with her relationship with a criminal, he added with irony. And what about the last one? Constantine pressed. Don't worry, she's alive. That's what matters, Azazel replied, leaving Constantine in a state of uncertainty. The story was just beginning, and the balance of the world was at stake. Gabriel mentioned that when he met you, you never stopped crying for them. And now you'll just leave it like this? See, exhaling smoke, I doubt they'd be willing to love a 40-year-old man. Azazel, you'd be surprised by the tastes of some girls. By the way, how did you end up like this? See, from smoking, he said sarcastically, knowing the reason. Serzex? Well, Azazel, Constantine, and tell us, what was all that about? Azazel, well, where should I start? See, the demons call me Constantine John Constantine, though I admit that's not my real name. Serzex, you know we can't trust you like this, right? Not after all this situation. What's your real name? See, wasn't I clear? The demons call me Constantine Demon Lord, he said, surprising everyone as he looked at Azazel, who just smiled. Serzex, well, Mr. Constantine, are you here to help us? See, yes and no. It depends on how much you're willing to pay. Rosweiss, is he only here for the money? Doesn't he care about the people? See, you're mistaken, sweetheart, I'll help the people if necessary in my own way, of course. After all, I have to maintain the balance. But if you want my help and my personal services as a bodyguard, you'll have to pay very well. Serzex, why do you think I need your protection? See, open your eyes, Lord Mao. Their ranks are few, and they are growing in number. The demons here are human, and they are beasts. The underworld is nothing more than a playground for them. Right now, they are feeding on both humans and demons, fallen angels. Yokai, they have a whole menu. After all, there are no rules of balance here. Serzex, rules of balance? See, they maintain the balance between demons and angels, but those rules do not apply in this world. After all, the biblical God here is dead and there is no one to stop them. Serzex, don't you think the power of the demons from my world could do something? See, your magic was rather useless, wasn't it? They aren't very good at launching attacks, but they can do things that you cannot. For example, they can become invisible to human eyes and whisper in the ears of both the powerful and the humble, making them commit the most despicable crimes, or control those who can move the masses, but they are not at that stage yet. What you saw there were just Beseo's low-tier demons. They aren't very strong, but they are good at instilling fear. This problem is just beginning, he said, making everyone nervous. Rias, do you have any solution? Can we stop them before it's too late? See, yes, you need to close the portal from which they are emerging. Azazel, brilliant, how did we not think of that? He said sarcastically. See, don't worry, I have my methods, but first, I need to clean up the city so that Rosita Frazita can sleep peacefully, he said, looking at Serzex mockingly. Serzex, Azazel, should you trust this man? Azazel, I trust him more than I would trust you, he said, receiving an annoyed glance from the redhead. Besides, he knows what he's doing after all, it's his specialty. Surzex, Vinny, he said, standing up coldly and walking away. See, nice suit, but didn't it need a couple of buttons and a bit of blood? He said mockingly as the redhead turned pale and glanced at him sideways, seeing his mocking smile before leaving. Azazel, sighs, you shouldn't provoke him like that. I know you can handle demons well, but he is a Mao. See, he is trash compared to the beings I have known and faced. Azazel, what kind of beings are there in that world? See, you would be surprised. Gods walking among men, dark knights, beings from other worlds and beings with infinite malice. Aquino, what are those two talking about? Rias, I don't know, but did you see that? Despite all the provocations he threw at my brother, knowing his position, he didn't waver. And Azazel, well, Azazel, what's wrong? Rias, were you able to find him? She said as the others approached, waiting for an answer, but he was getting nervous. Azazel, well, he said, looking at the man. See, first of all, tell me you have a nun, right? Kaneko, Asia Senpai, she said sadly. Rias, how did you know? See, tell me, where is she? He said seriously. Rias, who are you? To be continued. The scene begins with an African-American man and a blonde woman arguing in the hallways of a hospital. Gabriel looked at Raphael with concern. Why do you insist on saving that demon? I understand that he isn't evil, but he has threatened his life on several occasions. That is a very grave sin. You know where suicides go, right? Raphael sighed. I know, Gabriel. You can be the most loyal and reasonable archangel, but you still lack an understanding of human feelings. I know, but he is not human, Gabriel replied. According to what he told me, he was, but he was turned into a demon. He used a peculiar phrase, reincarnated as a demon. Is such a thing possible? To begin with, demons cannot act against non-human nature. Vampires are variations, humans turned into demons, but not like that. I know, but what he tells me breaks all the rules of balance. He says he belonged to a faction of demons in Japan. I didn't understand when he said faction, but when I asked him about the rest, he cried, and we had to calm him down. With all his strength, he told us his MSDR's last name. His Semthar? Gabriel inquired. Gremry. A demon from the Middle East? But he only bothers people. What would he be doing in Japan? I don't know. I suspect there is more to it. For now, I asked a couple of subordinates to keep an eye on him. Raphael, don't you think you're giving this too much importance? Tell me, why are you so determined to save a demon? You know, not only demons have betrayed heaven. Angels have too. I've even feared the day our numbers dwindle before the day of judgment arrives. This boy may be a demon, but his attitude is that of a teenager who has been through a lot. Where are you going? Gabriel asked. I'm going to the Middle East. I want to hear with my own ears the reason that Demon Gremory had for doing this. The scene changes. The man in the trench coat and Azazel were being led by a redhead, with a following behind them that kept watching them suspiciously. They had teleported inside a building with white walls and floors, and the man in the trench coat already had his suspicions. I'm sorry, it's not visiting hours, said a receptionist. We're here to check on Asia Argento's condition, Rias said, showing the Gremory emblem. The Gremory clan, please wait, the receptionist replied as she called a nurse to guide them. You can't smoke here, the nurse said, taking the cigarette away from Constantine. Can't everyone come in? The nurse asked. Kiba, Bucho, murmured one of the companions. That's fine, Azazel? Rias asked. I'm fine from here. In fact, you'll need me once you return, Azazel replied. The redhead and the man continued to follow the nurse. Rias couldn't stop. Observing the man, she felt strange emotions. Something about him seemed familiar, yet his attitude also irritated her. Not because he insulted her brother, but as if he had a problem with authority. However, she found him interesting and was curious about why Azazel trusted him so much. As they exited an elevator, they walked towards rooms with reinforced security. A loony bin, Constantine commented. A mental health center, a psychiatric hospital, the nurse corrected him. Ma'am, call it whatever you like, this is a madhouse, Constantine replied. Do you have a problem with that? the nurse asked. I've been in several, but the system doesn't work, especially Arkham Asylum. Arkham Asylum? I've never heard of it, the nurse said. Don't worry, it's in another country. The nurse led them to a room numbered 0666 and knocked on the door, saying, Asia-san, you have visitors, as she opened it. Please, don't say anything. Her condition is sensitive, the nurse warned. Thank you, we'll be careful, Rias replied. Upon entering, the room appeared normal, with a bed covered in white sheets, a desk with a Bible, and in a wooden chair, a blonde girl with a vacant expression who smiled at them in a white outfit. Rias Onissima, Asia said with a smile. Asia, Rias said, hugging her. How have you been? Well, who is he? Well, Rias began, glancing at the man as he cautiously approached. They call me John Constantine, the man said. It's not my profession, but people call me an exorcist. And how can I help you, mister? Asia paused as she noticed him starting to search around the room. What are you doing? Rias exclaimed. Stop. Ha! Constantine exclaimed as he found a tiny knife under the desk. Is that Asia? Rias said while Asia just looked down. Why, despite everything, do you? Don't be angry, Oji-sama. This knife wouldn't be enough to make deep cuts in flesh, but it would work on fabric, Constantine explained, lifting Asia's pillow, as she tried to get up in vain. The man reached into the pillow and pulled out his hand filled with various pills. Rias watched in shock as Asia cried. But why, Asia? Rias asked. Rias Onissima sobs, I just wanted to be by Issei-san's side again. But why? Despite everything, how did you know where to find him? Because she's a suicidal, Constantine said, taking the blonde's arm with a hint of sadness on his face and revealing his sleeve, which had several knife cuts. Just like me, he added, releasing her arm. When I thought Issei-sen was dead, I had no reason to live anymore, but when he told me that Azazel-sensei had found a sign of him, I didn't have the courage to do it. I wanted to wait at least one more day. Asia, Rias murmured. I admit that the pills were clever, but they wouldn't have killed you. You would have just had a painful stomach cleanse, Constantine said. Are you mocking me? Rias asked. No, quite the opposite. I'm trying to save her. Save her? I think you've done enough already. No. She's a suicidal, just like me. Demons like people with fragile minds. We need to take her with us, or she'll be an easy target. This building is protected by my family and the 3 factions, Rias replied. I know, that's why she will come with us. It's no longer a safe place. Hey, Rias said as Constantine opened the door to take both of them, but the nurse tried to stop him with a magic circle. Cover your ears. Emrud. Constantine shouted as the nurse collapsed, and he carried her to the blonde's bed. What was that spell? Rias asked. A friend taught it to me. Now we have to leave. Hey, stop. Explain to me what you're planning and why you're doing this deliberately, Rias demanded. Didn't I tell you? Those demons can come for her. Besides, her sacred gear will be very useful to us. I told you we can take care of ourselves. Don't be foolish. Those things are not like the enemies you've faced, believe me, I've seen them. Besides, they were about to devour her an hour ago. We were surrounded. Plus, we were planning to teleport. I assure you, you would have arrived in pieces. If I hadn't been there, not even your brother's power would have saved you. How do you know about his power? Or you? Rias asked, curious. I'll explain later, for now please. Trust me, Constantine replied as they entered the elevator. When they reached the reception, he cast a spell, and the receptionist collapsed. As they walked, they noticed Azazel welcoming them, but the other members were surprised to see the blonde. Bucho Kiba murmured. Asia Rias, Shiakino said. I know, but he says it's best for Asia to be on our side, Rias replied. So if you still love them, Azazel said in a tone only Constantine could hear. Hey, you'd better explain this to us, Rias demanded. I will, but for now it's best to go back. Midnight is approaching, and demons gain strength. Let's return, Constantine said, while smoking a cigarette. Some time passed, and a familiar voice resonated in the air. Issei said, a small figure with black hair, who appeared out of nowhere with a smile. Issei? Everyone exclaimed in unison. Azazel, he Rias murmured, surprised. Well, it seems I ruined the surprise, Azazel commented. Tell me, Issei, why are you hiding Drake's power? Did you not want to be found? Ophis asked. I had forgotten about powerful entities like you, Ophis. After all, dragon gods are not abundant. It's also a pleasure to see you, Constantine said, exhaling smoke. What gave me away? You've learned well, but I can still sense the essence of Great Red and part of my power in you, although somehow it feels very weak. Did you seal it? Ophis inquired. Hey, are you really Issei-san? Asia interrupted, her eyes wide with astonishment. I wanted to share this news gently. After all, I didn't expect you to believe it right away. It's been a while. Asia, I'm sorry I didn't tell you the truth, Constantine said with a sigh. Isis and Asia said as tears began to well up in her eyes and she embraced him. Don't cry, my trench coat is dirty, he replied, offering her a handkerchief. I'm sorry for being so harsh. The other girls in the group were crying, unable to believe that the brown-haired boy they once thought was dead was now standing before them, but in the form of an adult man. Well, let's head back. I think you'll need a drink after this, Azazel said. To be continued. Final chapter. A woman with dark skin and black hair walked through the streets of a village. Around her, people were bargaining with fruits and camels, while children played in the dusty streets despite the heat of the day. The woman took some apples from her pocket and shared them with the children, the elderly and women holding babies, who thanked her in their native tongue. She gave them a warm smile, and her beauty did not go unnoticed by the men. Some looked at her with admiration, others with longing. Upon reaching a shop, a tall but unattractive man blocked her way. Let her pass, believe me. If I could, I would have annihilated you already, a voice called from inside, and the man reluctantly let her enter. The woman walked through the silk curtains, guided by the candlelight and the little sunlight that filtered in, along with the smoke from tobacco. I didn't expect to see one of the archangels in my shop. What does a prodigal child need? Have you strayed from the right path? Said a woman with the same features as the locals, extraordinarily appealing, reclining on a camel surrounded by cushions. The demon Gramarye, the woman replied. Raphael, what brings you to my humble shop? Are you here to claim my life? I haven't done anything wrong since the 20th century, now I just predict the future and scare travelers and drunks around here. No, nothing like that. I'm here to ask you about your servants, one in particular. Open your eyes, the big guy over there is one of the few I have left. The others joined other leaders who had greater ambitions, but what should I expect from demons? After all, betrayal is part of their life. Don't lie to me, one of your boys ended up in America. I'm not lying, I really don't have many servants left, most just roam the streets looking for clients. To reincarnate them as demons? Are you accusing me of something? Have you lost your mind? Doesn't your God say not to judge if you don't want to be judged? I thought someone like you, who knows the past, present, and future, would know what happened. Don't you have that power as well? We're on Earth, Raphael. There are rules, protocols. Breaking them would only bring me trouble. I just keep my distance, but apparently, that's not effective either. Tell me, what is the reason for your journey to the other side of the world? So worried about a servant? Raphael fell silent. If you don't want to tell me, that's fine, but you have piqued my curiosity. Do you want my help? If I can see the boy, I might recognize one of my servants, but if not, I could use my powers to find out what you need. In another scene, the group and some members of Vali's team were at the Hayudu residence, in the main room, digesting all of Azazel's explanation. The girls looked at the ground, swallowing hard, while exchanging glances. A blonde kept watching the man who gazed out the window at the entire city while smoking a cigarette. So, what Ophis said he is? Issei-kun? Akino said, tears in her eyes but also confused. Hey, I've done the dirty work, I think it's your turn now, the man said, addressing the girls who looked at him with doubt. What Azazel says is true, I am Hayudu Issei the Security or I was. But if you are Issei-senpai, prove it, Kaneko said, trying not to cry. Kaneko Rias said before hugging her. But it's true, how do we know you are Issei? I mean, after all, you don't look like him at all. I don't want to offend you, but you look. Constantine laughed. Yes, I hear that quite often. Constantine, if it really is you, can you prove it? The image isn't the only thing that's different after all, You don't have his attitude either. Well, what did you expect? 20 years have passed, 20 long and dark years. Why don't you invoke your sacred gear? Rosweiss asked. Because it's sealed just like part of my power, even the flesh of the red dragon feels different as if it had been rotten? Constantine interrupted. Mixed with other essences. It's my fault I had some blood transplants. But why did you seal that power? Wouldn't it have been useful to have the power of a celestial dragon? And the flesh and essence of 2 dragon gods? Vali asked. At first, I thought so too, but there are battles you can't win with brute force. Besides, all that power attracted attention not only from angels and demons. There are beings who felt threatened by it, and others were just curious, but the result was always the same: the innocent got involved. But that doesn't explain your appearance, tell me. Shouldn't those 20 years have passed as if nothing happened? Biko said. It's the price for maintaining the seal. I won't die, but it's not like I look very handsome either. Besides, time flows very differently there. And why don't you remove the seal? Ophis asked, curious. Wouldn't that return you to your original appearance? It's possible, but it's also better to leave it as it is. Now that many beings are aware of this aura, it's best to keep it sealed so they can't detect it. Are there really enemies that powerful out there? Vali asked. Don't get too excited, though. There are many strong opponents, but those I faced are not beings you can confront with brute strength. Even with the Juggernaut drive, they can manipulate time and space. The only thing that keeps them in check are the rules. The rules? Tell me, do they really matter in that world? Azazel asked. Unlike here, yes. Here the biblical god died, and that was serious, but if that happened over there, chaos would ensue. Gods, demons, and other creatures would destroy the world. That's why those beings can't act freely even with me. It's no exception. I'm not human, and I wasn't from that world. If I wanted to win, I had to follow the rules or cheat without breaking them. Could? Azazel said. Whatever, let's just finish this once and for all. I won't blame you if you don't believe I'm Issei, but if you want to save your world, we'll have to work together. For now, sleep. Tomorrow will be a long night. Tomorrow? Shouldn't we act now? Kiba asked. It's past midnight. Demons increase their power. You wouldn't want to be out there when that happens. Don't worry. I set up a couple of barriers. They won't get through, he said, reclining in an armchair. Exclaimed Rosweiss. I still don't believe he is Issei, Zenobia said as the girls looked at him with annoyance and a redhead approached him. What's going on? Issei asked. I told you not to come in. I can carve some symbols on your door if you want to feel safer, he said as she looked at him in silence. Rias, with a sad expression, asked, what were Issei's last words to me before? I don't know, it was years ago, Issei replied, turning to try to sleep. Zenobia interjected, Bucho, you shouldn't. Kaneko, with tears in her eyes, said, he is not Issei-senpai. Azazel turned to the man. Hey, if you want permission to drink, you'll have to do something about it, or you'll be doing missions sober like a priest on Sunday morning. Rias, Issei called, not moving. I didn't do it, I swear. Rias, if anything happens to me, please forgive me for not being able to marry you. I love you, he said as the redhead shed tears, and he felt the emotion too. Aquino, with concern, asked, were those his last words? They weren't the last. I'm still here, Issei replied, with a cigarette in his mouth. Rias, sobbing, said, yes you are, as she wiped her tears. Asia, running towards him, asked, are you really Issei-sen? Are you not an illusion? Asia, he said, caressing her face. I'm as real as you. Issei, she cried on his shirt. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, I should never have tried that. How glad I am that I failed. How glad I am to see you again. Me too, he said, hugging her. The other girls wanted to cry and hug him, but they still had their doubts. Don't feel that way, Azazel told them. He is still Issei. We know, but his personality feels so different, Rosweiss commented. Well, he's been gone for 20 years, while only 2 have passed here. It's normal for him to feel out of place. For now, let's let them sleep, Azazel explained. But I'm still curious about those beings he mentioned, Biko said. Forget it, Biko, you'll have to wait until tomorrow, Azazel replied. Hee, you're curious too, Crow, Biko said to a platinum-haired man who was leaving the room. I'm going to hunt some worms. You coming? Vali asked. But he didn't say that. Arthur began. I know what he said and it's an opportunity to test that, Vali said as Biko followed him. Oniisama, Luffy said sadly. Don't worry, we'll be. But, by the way, how is Kuroka? Arthur asked. Better. She and Gasper-san seemed to improve when we told them about Issei-san's return, Luffy replied. I'm glad. By the way, be careful, he may be Issei, but I still sense a dark magic aura all around him. That archangel said it was normal, but after what happened with Chow Chow, I don't trust anyone like that. To be continued. A dark-skinned woman arrived next to another one wearing less clothing and holding a pipe. They were both in front of a church. You know I can't step on consecrated ground, Raphael. In fact, being in front of one is suicide, Gremory said. Don't worry, you won't enter. Besides, you're coming with me, Raphael replied. What a relief, Gremory said sarcastically. That would encourage me if I were human. Raphael transformed into a blonde girl and took Gremory to a Catholic hospital. The human staff looked at her with curiosity, while some undercover angels watched her cautiously. They headed to a room where an African-American man shot them a stern look. Are you crazy, Raphael? Bringing a demon here is already frowned upon, but do you want to be accused of treason? Gabriel asked. It's a pleasure to see you, Gabriel. I haven't seen you since the Great War, Gremory said. How can you be so calm after all this? Are your people planning something with humans? Tell me, why a Japanese boy? Gabriel inquired. Relax, I don't know anything either. That's why I came with Raphael. I'm curious too, Gremory replied. Are you really going to reveal information to the enemy? Gabriel asked. Do we have another option? We could use our power to reveal his past, but that can only be done with humans, and he is no longer one, Raphael explained. I hope you know what you're doing, Gabriel said as he opened the door. The women entered and saw a young man with a sad look on his face, lost in thought. And well? Gabriel asked. He's not one of my servants. If I had a servant as cute as him, I would have made him mine forever. No, this boy, I can sense something more, Gremory said, approaching him. This, Raphael murmured, surprised. I'm sorry, Issei said, not having heard them arrive. I'm sorry. Shoo, calm down. You see, she is. How do I explain this? Raphael said. You don't need to lie to him, Raphael. After all, you already have a bad reputation for that. Hello, boy, my name isn't important, but you can call me One-chan. I am a demon, Gremory introduced herself. A demon? Issei asked, swallowing hard as he recalled Gabriel's warning. Why are you getting nervous? I haven't done anything to you yet, Gremory said mockingly. Besides, you are one too. Enough. Finish your job, Gabriel interrupted. What a buzzkill. All right, boy, this normally would require a hand for the future, but since it's not about your future, I'll need your head, Gremory said, touching her forehead to his. The demoness saw the entire life of the young man, from his beginning as a human, his transformation into a demon, to how he ended up in that place in the hands of angels. Raphael, this boy, Gremory said, stepping back. This boy is not from this world. What do you mean? Raphael asked. He comes from a different world, one where demons and angels coexist in peace, Gremory explained. Demon and angels coexisting? Don't lie, Gabriel said. She's not lying. I can feel the truth, Raphael asserted. That's not all. Gremory continued, looking at him. He has a dragon inside him. A dragon? Is that even possible? Gabriel asked. Yes, but the dragon is weak. It used all its energy to stay alive after all those injuries it sustained, Gremory explained. Is Drake weak? Issei said, surprised. The Welsh dragon? But they are hidden from humans, Gabriel commented. Apparently, this one isn't, Gremory said. That's not all you have to say, is it? Raphael asked. The woman elaborated on the evil pieces and the situation in Issei's world, omitting his circumstances due to the young man's sensitivity, but she shared it with both angels. Gabriel took it with anger, as the boy was innocent, while Raphael shed a couple of tears. Well, what do you plan to do with him? Gremory asked. What to do? We have to return him to his world, Gabriel replied. I doubt he wants to do that after everything that happened. He has no place to go, not even a family that remembers him. Why not let me keep him? After all, he is part of the Gremry clan, Gremry suggested. Don't tempt your luck, demon, Gabriel warned. What a shame he was such a cute boy. Besides, being a dragon could enhance his vitality. He would make a good incubus, Gremry commented. Raphael, thank you, your help has been invaluable, but now we will take care of it. I will get you home safely, but can I ask you to keep quiet? Raphael said. Fine, but in exchange you'll let me see him up close. I'm curious, Gremry replied. All right, Raphael agreed. Raphael! Gabriel exclaimed. What are you plotting, Raphael? Gremry asked, stepping back a bit. The atmosphere was tense as Raphael and Gabriel discussed the future of a young man who could not stay with them. Raphael proposed that they erase his memory to give him a fresh start, but Gabriel knew that was not possible and that the young man could be killed without understanding why. What will you do then? Gabriel asked worried. We must leave him with someone who knows about this world, someone who can help him. The church wouldn't accept him, he would just be a target for their experiments. We need someone who is neither on our side nor theirs, but who truly cares about the world, Raphael replied. I can only think of one person, but that old man will throw it back in our faces, Gabriel said. We have no other choice. We must seek out Constantine, Raphael concluded. The scene shifted to a man in a white shirt and tie getting up from a chair. Two women, one redhead and one blonde, rested on his legs. The man tried to rise without waking them, leaving a cushion in their place. He headed to the bathroom and washed his face while a Nikomata watched him closely. I was told Issei had aged, but not this much, Kuroka, the Nikomata commented. Kuroka? The man exclaimed, surprised by her appearance. She had dark circles under her eyes and scars on her face and hands, and her hair looked unkempt. Are you surprised by my new look, Isseinya? Kuroka said teasingly. No, actually, I'm the one who should say that, the man replied as he checked his pack of cigarettes, noticing he only had 2 left. Are you really Issei? Kuroka asked, surprised to see him rummaging through his wallet. Those scars, the man began. Oh, Issei, it's not right to look at a woman anywhere but in the eyes. But these, well, I got them after a disagreement with a certain maid, she said, stroking her face. I was referring to the ones on your arms, Issei clarified. These I got them saving that silly Chiron. You know those demons are hard to handle, especially when they go invisible, Kuroka explained. Issei put on his trench coat and took out an ointment, offering it to Kuroka. Cream? Don't you think I thought of this before? Or is it for my scars? She asked. Do they hurt, right? Issei inquired. What? Kuroka replied, confused. The scars. For humans, a demon scratch is fatal, but for a Nikomata, it should only hurt a lot. Put it on. It's made from magical herbs. I don't know if it will help with the memories Graphia left you, but it will help with the beasts, he said as he walked out of the bathroom. Toward the kitchen. Since when do you know all this? Kuroka asked. Since an old man told me his life story. Leave some for Kaneko, she has a scratch on her leg, doesn't she? Issei suggested. Naya, you've become very observant. Did you also notice that her bust has grown? Kuroka joked. I did, Issei admitted as he searched the refrigerator and pantry, preparing a salami sandwich and another with peanut butter and jelly. Akino suddenly appeared. I thought you would wait for breakfast. I was planning to make something special to celebrate your return, she said. Sandwiches are quicker. Besides, I have a lot to do today, Issei replied as she approached to touch his chest. Are you really Issei-kun? Akino asked nostalgically. I don't know. I think I was. When you're in a new place with new people, doing different things, sometimes you forget who you are, Issei reflected. But we never forgot who you were. Even after what happened with Ajuka, the first year was hard for all of us. If it weren't for my father, I would have been lost, dreaming of being by your side once more. Even when Asia tried to take her own life, I thought the same, but I knew I couldn't rest with Ajuka out there. Now he is, Akino said, caressing his face. Akino, that was well, for me, it was 20 years ago. What happened with Ajuka was painful, and if I find him, I will send him back to hell, not this hell. As for us, I'm really glad to see you. But now I'm a man of nearly I could be your father, Issei said. I don't care, Aquino replied, hugging him. Fufu, that makes it more fun a girl and her older boyfriend. Electra complex? I don't know what to say. Doesn't that seem strange to you? Issei asked. Fufu, I could get used to it, she said, stroking his beard. But if you don't like it, you can release that seal. I'm sorry, but for my sake, your sake, and the sake of this world, it would be best if you don't, Issei replied. Are there really beings that powerful out there? Aquino asked. Well, I have a hefty tab at a bar in Los Angeles with a Mao. Also, the Lord of Dreams still holds a grudge against me for a poker game I played with his sister, Issei explained. Poker? Were you being naughty, Issei? Aquino asked with a smile. Well, that's what happens after a few drinks, Issei replied. But you could remove it after we seal the portal, right? Aquino insisted. I think so, but let's not count our chickens before they hatch, Issei said. Suddenly, Azazel appeared. I'm glad to hear that. By the way, I hope you'll share your stories with me one of these days after a few drinks, he commented. Sure, but they aren't stories with happy endings, Issei warned. Where will you start? Azazel asked as Zenobia, Kiba, Rosweiss, and Aquino prepared to leave. Where I always do. I'll go get some cigarettes and then report illegal immigrants to hell, Issei said. To be continued. Chapter end. Liverpool, London 1. In the streets of a rundown neighborhood, a blonde woman, a brown-haired man with a sad and reflective look, and an African-American man strolled. Gabriel stopped in front of a seedy bar and told them to wait. Upon entering, the drag addicts and gang members inside looked at him, but he acted indifferent and headed to the worn-out bar. What can I get you? The bartender asked. I'm looking for someone, Gabriel replied, unaware that his words unsettled those present, causing them to stand up abruptly. Are you a cop? The bartender asked, preparing to draw a firearm. No, I'm looking for John Constantine, the African-American man responded, maintaining his composure. The gang members and the bartender laughed and sat back down, relieved. So you're looking for that old BS huh? Does he owe you money? The bartender said, chuckling. No, I need him, Gabriel replied seriously. After leaving the bar, Gabriel crossed the street, ignoring Raphael, and the three headed to a cheap motel filled with drag addicts. The front desk looked like a joke. Anyone could walk in and sleep without consequences. They had to be careful with the stairs, which were in disrepair, and the smell of urine and blood filled the air. A naked drag addict wandered the halls, with a syringe still in his arm. Raphael looked at the place with sadness, while the brown-haired man, surprised, observed everything, as it was his first time seeing an environment so different from Japan. He's here, Gabriel said, pointing to a door with symbols carved and drawn in ink and salt. Knock, knock, a sound echoed, but there was no response. Knock, 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 Gabriel knocked harder. The room is paid for until Monday. Get lost, an old voice shouted. Stop lying, John. This place doesn't even have service, Gabriel said. Who are you? The voice asked as someone fell with several bottles around. You don't have to worry, I'm not a demon, if that's what you're concerned about. If I were, I wouldn't need to use the door, Gabriel said, sliding a white feather under the door. Is that you, Gabriel? The voice asked, getting closer. The door opened, revealing a very thin old man with a cigarette in his mouth and no breathes on. The room smelled of alcohol, and there was a pentagram in the center. It's been a while, John, Gabriel said, his tone dry. What do you want? To talk to me about the word of the Lord? John asked, sitting on the bed. Quite the opposite, John, Raphael replied. Oh, Raphael, why do you like taking the form of a woman, especially in places like this? The old man said. When God allowed us to take the form we wanted, I thought I should take the form of the most appealing thing he has created, Raphael explained. I see, so Gabriel too, John said. No, I'm just an emissary, I'm not allowed to intervene directly, this body is borrowed, Gabriel clarified. I see, and that kid don't tell me that? John began. John, this is the reason we're here, Raphael interrupted. Hey, no offense, but there are orphanages besides. I'm not a good father by any means, John replied. We're aware, Gabriel said. Raphael looked at John with concern. You're the only one we can turn to at least directly. John, surprised, replied, Is heaven asking a condemned man for help? That would make a good book. But what's the problem with the kid? Does he need a babysitter? He's a demon, Raphael said, surprising the old man. A demon? Are you cooperating with demons? Are you out of your minds? John put on his breathes and looked out the dirty window at the street. This is bad, very bad. Does this mean that heaven has given up and this is the beginning of the apocalypse? Calm down, heaven hasn't finished this battle, Raphael replied. And hell? John asked. It's also in the fight, Gabriel said. So, don't tell me he's a hybrid? Or that I was part of some dirty deal. John was becoming increasingly uneasy. Shut up and listen, John. No one is coming for you, Gabriel said, observing the symbols in the candle-lit room. Are they? You've been very paranoid lately. What did you expect? I'm not eternal. Besides, those things can smell it, John replied. This place doesn't help, Gabriel added. Tell me, would you look for a victim in a place forgotten by God? There are only low-tier demons here. The dangerous ones are in the upscale areas or in the city. Besides, it's not just demons that are hunting. There are several sorcerers and vampires I've faced. But let's stop talking about me. Why can that boy walk freely among angels? Is he a relative of Morning Star? No, he's not from this world. Not even from this hell. He's a demon, but not like the ones here. In his world, demons, angels, and fallen angels coexist peacefully and try to help humanity, Raphael explained. Does such a thing exist? John asked, looking at the young man with curiosity. Tell me, boy, what's your name? Man Issei, the boy replied seriously. Haedu? Is this kid from Korea or one of those places with slanted eyes? He looks normal to me, so what do you need? Should I report him to his hell? No, the boy has no place to return to, Raphael said sadly as Issei lowered his head. Okay, let me rephrase my question. Why do you think I would be the best option? John inquired. Because the boy wouldn't survive long on his own. He has great power within him and could endure, but that would attract the attention of many of them. Also, he doesn't have an astral form like the demons here. He could be possessed, and they would exploit that power. And the angels, if they haven't done anything about it, it's because of our orders. That's why we need someone like you, John, someone who isn't on anyone's side, someone who can navigate both worlds. I see, but tell me, what do I gain from this? John asked. Always so selfish, are you really surprised that demons are looking for you for that? Gabriel said. As far as I know, I don't deserve heaven, but I don't exactly long for hell either, not after everything that awaits me. Tell me, if they give me a chance thinking I'm a middle ground, can they do the same for me? I see you want to go to purgatory, right? Raphael said. Raphael! Gabriel exclaimed. It's not my place to decide your fate, but I will speak with them to see what we can do. Until then, can we trust you with this? Raphael asked. Tell me, Japanese boy, do you know anything about magic? John inquired. Very little, although I used most of it in hand-to-hand combat, Issei replied. Hand-to-hand? Is that even possible? John asked, intrigued. Issei was in a convenience store, coming out with several packs of cigarettes and a bottle of whiskey. Outside, Zenobia, Kiba, Rosweiss, and Aquino were waiting for him. Kiba, with a worried expression, asked, Issei-san, I understand the cigarettes, but is the alcohol really necessary? Issei replied confidently, Trust me, we'll need it later. Besides, it came from Azazel's wallet. Kiba, grab a couple of gallons and fill them with water. Zenobia, somewhat skeptical, interrupted, Water? I don't think we're wasting time. You said you'd take care of those things. Issei exhaled smoke from his cigarette and retorted, We've been at peace with the angels and the church for so long that you've forgotten even your weaknesses, haven't you, Zenobia? Rosweiss asked, Are you referring to holy water? Aquino, with a worried look, added, Issei-kun, we don't want to contradict your methods, but don't you think that's a bit too little for those beings? Issei explained, Think of this as a plague. You don't pour poison directly on the cockroaches, you place it in strategic locations to reduce their numbers and corner them. Besides, There's only one place where those creatures could be hiding. He began walking toward a hill. The same place the fallen used the first time I met them. Kiba realized where he was referring to and murmured, "He didn't mean." Aquino completed his thought. "Yes, the church where Asia died." Zenobia asked, "Why do you think that?" Issei replied, "Because its ground isn't consecrated. If it were, even Rainier would have had trouble stepping on it." Upon arriving at the church, the atmosphere was heavy. The smell of decay and sulfur filled the air. Issei told the others, "Stay here. Spill a little water around the church and try not to hurt yourselves with it." He started to take a few steps, but Zenobia stopped him. "Listen to me, I'm still not sure you're Issei, and this only makes me doubt more." "He always worked as a team, and that's what we'll do," she said, while the others nodded. Issei, with a sigh, accepted, "All right, but Rosweiss, Aquino, try to do what I said and leave an opening wide enough for a person to pass through. I need someone to cover our backs. Kiba, Zenobia, if you get trapped, don't say I didn't warn you. By the way, have you all had breakfast?" The others looked at each other, puzzled by the question. Upon opening the door, the smell of decomposition intensified. Issei and Zenobia covered their noses as they entered. Everything was dark, the windows had been boarded up. Their demon eyes took a moment to adjust, and when they did, the scene that unfolded was horrifying. There were sneakers, clothes, bags, and other items belonging to both children and women, pools of blood, and bones, some still with flesh and tendons. It was like the nest of a wild beast. Zenobia ran to vomit, while Rosweiss and Aquino asked what was happening. Kiba, in shock, thought, "What kind of monster are we facing, and why is he so calm?" He watched Issei sit down and smoke a cigarette. Issei remarked, "This is why I told you it would be better if I came alone. Listen, Kiba, these demons would be classified as level they only exist to devour and massacre. If things go well, they will be the most harmless demons you've ever faced. I just hope the Whisperers and the diplomats haven't crossed over yet." Kiba was taken aback. "What? Are there even more dangerous beings?" Issei, sensing a presence behind him, said, Yar, they've already awakened." A demon appeared before him without him reacting. "John Constantine, how did you manage to cross into this world? You and those angels shouldn't be celebrating that we won't condemn the souls of those people." Issei, with determination, replied, "I'm sorry, but you know the rules. Besides, this was my home. Tell me who let you through and where I can find him." The demon sneered, "You're not in a position to ask questions, rather, you're not even in a position to be heard. Devouring you sounds just as tempting as taking over this world without God." Issei stood up, scaring the demons a bit as he walked toward the door. "Let's go, Kiba. I suppose it'll have to be the hard way." The demon tried to block his path. "Where do you think you're going, John Constantine?" But Kiba and Rosweiss covered the entrance with water, trapping the demons inside the church as they screamed in pain. Issei said, "I told you I wanted to do this peacefully. Now they'll be locked in there, bothering no one." "John Constantine, you will pay for this," the demon shouted, while the others emitted terrifying roars. Issei proposed, "Let's do this. Tell me where I can find the portal and I will show you mercy." Rosweiss, confused, asked, "Issei? Why would we do that?" Issei explained, "Because food will start to run out, and demons have no qualms about cannibalism. And from what I saw, you're the smallest one here." The demon, resigned, replied, "Fine, all we know is that they appear in a floating city and then several lines are transported at random now. Free me." Issei inquired, "And who summoned you? How do I find him?" "I don't know, I just know he has silver hair. Free me, John," the demon pleaded. Issei, turning his back, said, "All right, thanks." "You said you would show mercy," the demon exclaimed. "I did. I won't report you to hell, but I won't forget about those people you devoured," Issei responded. "Him and it," the demon shouted, trying to escape, but his skin burned against the magic circle. "You will pay for this." Issei exited the church, leaving everyone stunned as he drew a seal outside with cat hair. "All right, this barrier will prevent any human from getting close." Aquino, worried, commented, Issei, about the demons. Don't worry, I'll take care of them later. But it would be best if they devoured each other. Now let's go back, we already know where the portal is. Rosweiss, amazed, said, you defeated them purely through strategy. Issei replied, to defeat the father of lies, you have to become the best liar. And the best way to do that is by telling half-truths. In another scene, a church was on fire. Outside, several exorcists, nuns, and children were crying. A girl with chestnut pigtails watched the flames when she received a magic circle. It was Griselda who brought news from Cuando. An exorcist from another world had come to help. Irina, why are you still contacting me? Have you forgotten that my wings turned black? Irina asked. Griselda replied, that doesn't matter now. Michael still has faith that you will redeem yourself in time. For now, go to Cuando and wait for new orders. There is someone you need to see. Irina, doubtful, asked, do you really think an exorcist will be of much use? Griselda clarified, he's not just any exorcist, this person is someone you know. To be continued. Chapter end. A woman with long red hair was walking outside the train station. The scene slowed as she smiled at a young man with chestnut hair, who couldn't take his eyes off her. The woman continued on her way, not looking back, and joined a group of men and women who began joking about the young man who had been watching her. She's an appealing girl, commented an elderly man lighting his cigarette next to the chestnut-haired young man, who was oblivious to his presence. Good smile, good posture, though it seems she already has someone, he said, observing the redhead embracing a tall, muscular man. Yeah, at her height, she should have won by now, replied the chestnut-haired young man with a somewhat sad tone as he picked up some bags and walked through the gloomy streets of the town. Don't feel bad, kid. All the pretty girls tend to be attracted to the reckless, said Constantine, a friend of the chestnut-haired young man. That doesn't make me feel any better, replied Issei, the chestnut-haired young man. That's when you come in. When they cry, you can pretend to listen, and if you play your cards right, the rest is history. I'm not that kind of man. No, that's why you're in a town in England carrying an old man's luggage. As the elderly man followed behind him, they took a taxi. Issei gazed out the window with nostalgia. Raphael told me that your situation was delicate. I found it strange coming from an archangel and quite amusing when he mentioned it a demon with humanity, who would have thought? Although that doesn't seem to excite you, you and Blood are the same, always wanting to highlight the little humanity you have left. Do you think there's something wrong with that? As far as I know, you're human too. I am, Constantine said, exhaling smoke. At least 70% or 80%. You'd be surprised at the transplants I've had. I look 80, but I'm older than any of these idiots around here, though that doesn't mean I'm immortal. No one in this world is eternal, even gods can die, and I think you know that better than anyone, he said while Issei remained silent. After the taxi ride, they arrived at an inn. After dropping off their luggage, they sat down to rest a bit in the dining area. I need a bathroom, Issei said softly. If I were you, I wouldn't clean up so quickly after all, if you need that bathroom later. What are we doing here, Constantine? Well, I couldn't stay in that filthy junky motel forever after all, Raphael revealed my location. Now I'll have to keep moving, in addition to being a babysitter. I don't need that, I can take care of myself. If I had said those words to my old man before going off to war, I'll tell you something. Raphael told me a bit about your situation. He didn't go into details, but he said that the beings in your world are very different from those here. That demons, angels, and fallen ones coexist in peace. I'm not surprised. Japan has always been very peaceful in terms of coexistence, he said, teasing Issei. Though there are always exceptions, sometimes yokai can be more dangerous than European demons. Dangerous? Yes, isn't that the case in your world? Well, yes, but the three factions reached a peace agreement with them. Besides, the more aggressive yokai are minimal supernatural beings coexist for their own good and that of humanity. Constantine looked at him with a smile. Anyway, here those BSTRDS are butchers, although many of them enjoy psychological torture. Finish your dinner, you'll need energy for tonight, but if I were you, I wouldn't eat too much. I'd hate for you to vomit my money, he said, reading a newspaper that talked about Smallville, 12 years after the meteor shower. Later that night, the old man and the young man left the inn. It was past midnight, and they stepped out into the street, where a bit of fog lingered. The smell of sewage was unpleasant, but Issei tensed upon hearing screams from across the street. "Get away! No one will take her from me. No one will take the love of my life." A young naked man, covered in blood, shouted as he passed very close to them. Issei was in shock at what the young man was carrying in his arms. It was a dog, or rather, the corpse of one in a state of decomposition. The sight made him uneasy, especially as he saw larvae and worms falling onto the street. "Hey!" Issei shouted, trying to stop him, but the old man held him back. "It's too late for the kid," he said, continuing on his way. "Aren't you going to do something to help him? Raphael-sama mentioned that we must help humans. And we will believe me, we need to focus our attention elsewhere. If things go well, that kid might regain his sanity, though he'll need a lot of vaccinations in the process." After a while of walking, while Issei tried to contain his anger for not helping the young man, they entered a junkyard. "Let's go in," the old man said, noticing that someone else had entered, ignoring the "no trespassing" sign on the ground. Issei still felt annoyed, as there was a lot of respect for public property in Japan. "Don't feel bad," Kid Constantine said, noticing his discomfort. "You're no longer in your world, where everyone loves and respects each other. Now you're in the real world." After walking for a while, they noticed a truck. Inside, there was a passenger who didn't pay them any attention as they got into the passenger seat. "I keep pulling and pulling, but the pain doesn't stop," said a young man with black hair, while Issei noticed how the entrails and flesh stuck to the walls of the interior. He couldn't resist and bolted out of the truck to vomit. "Should I stop?" the man asked. "It's best if you finish," Constantine replied. "You're right," the young man said with a smile, as he continued pulling at his flesh while the old man calmly got out of the truck. "You have to help him," Issei exclaimed, wiping his vomit away. "There's nothing you can do," Kid Constantine said, lighting his cigarette. "The least you can do is keep him company until he dies." "Thought with me. Didn't you see all those?" "I saw it," Constantine interrupted. "I told you that your world and mine are different. I can help him with magic. Maybe I know you're a sorcerer, right? Phoenix tears might work the same way here," he said desperately, not analyzing his words. "Phoenix tears?" Issei was confused, questioning the situation he was in. "But you're a sorcerer," he said, trying to understand his companion's logic. Constantine, with a serious look, replied. "And just because of that, should I deal with these things? Besides, should I grow a beard and look for prodigy children for my magic school? Don't say nonsense. I'll tell you something. People who practice magic in this world only lead their lives to ruin, and the innocent always end up involved. Besides, there's nothing you can do. That kid has already been offered as a tribute." Issei, alarmed, exclaimed. "Tribute?" A scream came from the truck, and although the young man felt the urge to run, the old man stopped him with a few simple words. "It's pointless, he's no longer alive, let's move on." Both walked toward the building. Issei felt trapped between two worlds that seemed cruel. The old man opened the door, and a staircase led down to a basement, where a massive dog's head emerged from the darkness. "You missed Uncle John," the old man said, flicking away a cigarette. "But," Issei, fearful, asked, "is that the demon?" "Well, yes, or at least part of him," Constantine replied as a giant, furry body lifted its head. "Raphael said you were a legendary dragon or something like that. Tell me, do you think you can take on a simple little dog?" he said as Issei summoned his gauntlet. In another scene, a man in a trench coat took a sip of whiskey in his armchair, while some girls were still getting used to the situation. "A floating city? Could he be referring to Agrias?" Azazel asked. "It's possible, but getting in will be a complete hassle," Rias replied. "Don't even mention it. We already have enough problems containing those creatures." Issei, "Do you think you can?" Azazel said as he finished his drink. "I don't know, remember that I was exiled," the man replied, as the girls recalled their bitterness. "We'll think about that later. For now, I'll inform the Maus and Michael about what happened," Azazel said. "Tell them that if they want my help, it will cost them," Issei said, lighting a cigarette. Azazel hesitated, but was interrupted by a familiar voice. "You must have a lot of respect for someone like him to speak to you that way," said a man whom everyone recognized immediately. "Barakil," Azazel murmured. "Otusan?" Aquino asked. I apologize for the interruption, but it's urgent, Barakiel said as both fallen angels stepped away, murmuring about various topics. Elsewhere, a figure with pigtails watched from the doorway of a luxurious room. Wani-chan, the black-haired girl, said, tenderly hugging the girl with pigtails. Sonaten, I'm so glad to see you, the other replied, stroking her head. The black-haired girl with glasses seemed to be acting more childlike than usual. After playing with her, she laid her down and tucked her in, giving her a kiss on the forehead. Wani-chan, please don't turn off the lights, Sona said sadly. Why, Sonaten? Serafal asked. I can still see his silhouette and it scares me, Sona replied, letting a few tears fall. Don't worry, your Wani-chan will be here until you fall asleep, Serafal promised. Do you promise? Sona asked. I promise. After that, the black-haired girl with pigtails left, leaving Sona in the care of her maids, while she looked at her sister's queen with some papers. Has there been any progress? Serafal asked. Well, she can sleep alone now, but she says she still has nightmares, and Tsubaki replied. And what? Serafal exclaimed, annoyed. She said, I can still feel his hands touching my body without permission. When it's dark, she even cries while playing under her bed during hide and seek. Tiske, the black-haired girl with pigtails, said, annoyed. The blonde boy? Where is he? He hasn't stopped training, he still blames himself. Fine, call him. I have a mission for him, Man Issei, even in death, I don't forgive what you've done. To be continued. The scene begins with a young brown-haired man gasping, trying to get up in a dark room. The floor is covered in blood and entrails. The atmosphere is horrific, like a slaughterhouse with chains and hooks dripping blood. Among the bodies, one can see flayed human figures, their faces frozen in expressions of pain. Despite the nauseating smell, the young man seems unconcerned. Several thoughts cross his mind. I must help them, he tells himself as he tries to stand. An old man covered in entrails watches the young man and says, I must say, I didn't expect you to defeat him. To be honest, I thought that filthy dog was just a slide of luck, but when you faced this butcher, you left me speechless. The brown-haired man approaches an area where several people are hanging with hooks piercing their bodies. Please, stay with me, he pleads as he tries to unhook the body of a severely injured woman. It's useless, kid, the old man replies calmly. She's already dead, at least it's a better fate. A better fate? The brown-haired man retorts, angry as he grabs the old man's shirt. When we arrived at this warehouse, she was still alive. Even while fighting, I could hear her calling for help. Not just her, but all the others. How is that a better fate? You're not understanding, the old man says, shaking off the young man's grip with a swift motion. Look at them closely. Do you think they had the chance to die whole? No, they couldn't even die quickly. Those things you just killed made sure to keep them alive. From what I've heard, the pain in humans gives them a better flavor. Now tell me, don't you think they wish to die over and over for every inch of skin they lost? For every open wound they left to fester on purpose? The old man releases the brown-haired man, who falls to the ground, hearing the sound of coagulated blood and bones. The young man stands up and grabs a metal bar, striking what remains of a body. I'll be outside, kid, Constantine, the old man, says as he exits through the back door. Shortly after, a special police team arrives, some of them vomiting at the scene. Later, the case would be classified as part of a satanic cult practicing cannibalism. Meanwhile, a few streets away, the old man and the brown-haired man walk through the city's alleys, still covered in blood. The homeless watch them, some in fear, others indifferent. Want a cigarette? Constantine asks, handing a homeless man a couple of dollars for a pack of cheap cigarettes. Why do these things exist? Why doesn't the sky do something to stop them? Issei, the brown-haired man, asks between gasps. I stopped asking myself that a long time ago, Constantine replies, lighting his cigarette. I always told myself that life is unfair, and if there is a God, he should take care of these things, but let me tell you something, no one cares. But Raphael-sama and Gabriel-sama. Oh, them, well, I admit that Raphael feels something special for humanity, but he is not omnipresent. Not while he has to follow the rules of balance. And Gabriel, he does this more out of duty. He's not very enthusiastic about saving humanity, rather, he wants to impress his father. But I don't blame him. Humans are wretched, unpleasant beings, only thinking about killing each other. You might believe that demons inspire them to commit these acts of cruelty, but sometimes I think it's the other way around. How do you manage to sleep at night after seeing these things? I close my eyes and can't stop remembering their faces and their cries for help, Issei says, shedding tears. The elder offers a cigarette to the brown-haired boy, who initially declines but eventually accepts. I would say you get used to it, but a part of you knows you'll never forget the faces, the names, the voices don't fade away, Constantine says, lighting the young man's cigarette. It's horrible, Issei murmurs, coughing. I know they're cheap after all. Tell me, kid, in that world, are demons really as good as you say? Constantine asks, while the brown-haired boy looks down. I mean, after everything you've told me, it wouldn't be bad to be reincarnated as one. The harem part and the lands sound incredible, especially when their average lifespan is millennia. And what about Tsubaki-san? Asks Saji, a muscular blonde who is training in one of the gardens of the Citri territory, wiping the sweat from his brow. You've improved quite a bit, every day you're getting stronger, replies a young woman with black hair and glasses. Yes, all thanks to Saruk-san's training. Too bad the blonde says as the conversation continues. Tsubaki approached Saji, who seemed lost in thought. How is she? Tsubaki asked, concern in her voice. She has made progress, you should see her, Saji replied, clenching his fists so tightly that his skin turned pale. Saji, Tsubaki said, surprised by the change she had seen in him over the past 2 years. Just then, a maid burst into the conversation, visibly agitated. Tsubaki-sama, you have to come quickly, the maid exclaimed. What's happening? Tsubaki asked, alarmed. It's Sona-sama. The scene quickly shifted. Tsubaki, Saji, and the maid rushed to Sona's room, where several maids were trying to console her. Sona Kaishu, they both shouted in unison. Sona hugged Tsubaki tightly, crying like a child, which broke the hearts of everyone present. Tsuba-chan, don't let them take me. Take you? But who? Tsubaki asked, confused. The man, Sona sobbed. Visibly shaken, turned to the maids. What happened? He asked urgently. We don't know. She was just playing hide and seek and she went into Lord Citri's room. You know she can't be in the dark. Saji exclaimed, frustrated. We're sorry, Saji-sama, but Lord Citri's office is always locked. Even we can't enter without the permission of the head maid. Saji, I know you're upset, but they're not to blame, Tsubaki intervened, trying to calm him down. After a while, Sona calmed down. Saji apologized to the maids and waited outside his king's room while Tsubaki and Sona talked. Tsuba-chan, Sona called, her voice trembling. I'm sorry, Kai Sona-chan, Saji-san is just a little worked up. After all, your safety comes first. Besides, Leviathan-sama said you should be more careful when playing hide and seek. I know, Wani-chan, she mentioned it too, but I just wanted to see Otusan. Lord Citri is. I know, but I heard someone talking in his study and thought it was Otusan, but when I opened the door, tears began to well in her eyes. Shoo, you don't have to tell me anything. Besides, no one will hurt you, not while we're here. Tsuba-chan, Sona said, clutching her blouse. Can you sleep with me tonight? She asked, blushing. Of course, Tsubaki replied with a gentle smile, but are you sure? After all, Leviathan-sama might get upset. Please, Sona said, tears streaming down her face. I can still see him not just in the dark, also when I close my eyes during my bath or when he sleeps and always whispers to me. Tsubaki's eyes widened in surprise. And what does he usually say to you? The scene shifted to the Hyudu residence. A man in a trench coat got up, surrounded by cigarette butts and empty bottles. He slowly put on his breathes. Nya, thanks for the view, said a Nikomata with a smile. If I had known you'd be such easy prey at night, I would have taken off some clothes too. Whenever you want, kitty, the man replied with a grin as he fastened his breathes. Issei, exclaimed a blonde and a redhead, blushing. Era, Issei-kun has lost a bit of his shame, Akino said. Naya, was that a yes? Kuroka asked, while the other girls pouted and looked a bit sad. I still love épées and alcohol and cigarettes, especially when those three come together. Did you have any fun in that world? Kuroka asked, while the other girls looked at him with sadness. It was 20 years, I didn't think I'd come back. Besides, if you had been in my place, I wouldn't blame you, he said, looking at all the girls. But I don't blame you if you end up hating me. I could never hate you, said a redhead, stroking the man's unshaven face while he looked at them with a slight smile. As the girls prepared breakfast, the man in the trench coat gazed out the window when he heard a familiar voice cross the door. So you're the exorcist of the world of those things, said a girl with pigtails, her gaze challenging. Griselda-san mentioned that I might recognize you once Azazel introduced you, but honestly, I can't recognize anything. Irina, the girls exclaimed. Zenobia, by the way, what is this man doing in our sanctuary? Irina asked, while the man in the trench coat looked at her seriously, though deep down he was glad to see her. We have a problem, said Azazel, accompanied by Barakil. I know, the man replied, lighting a cigarette, which annoyed Irina and surprised Barakil negatively. The whispers have crossed the portal. To be continued.